20 knockouts in 21 fights since the comeback began in 19...
On the June 16, 1990, at the famous Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, one of the most intriguing matchups in boxing history was unfolding. In one corner was George Foreman, the 41-year-old old lion, returning with sledgehammer fists. In the other was Brazil's pride, Adilson Rodrigues. This wasn't just a heavyweight bout. It was the ultimate test of whether Foreman could truly become world champion again. The Vegas air was hot that night, but the tension inside the ring was even higher. Let's take a closer look at these giants. George Foreman stood 6'3" and weighed in at a massive 263 pounds, 119 kilograms. He looked like an immovable fortress. His opponent, Adilson Rodrigues, was 6'1" and weighed 219 pounds, 99 kilograms. The 44-pound difference highlighted Foreman's physical dominance. Rodrigues was a legend in Brazil with 36 wins and was ranked number 10 by the WBA at the time. This meant Foreman was facing a top 10 contender for the first time since his comeback began.
Sao Paulo, Brazil. He is probably the biggest hero in Brazil since Pele, the soccer star down there. Big George with that jab. Look at those big, strong biceps of George Foreman. This telecast of the Don King Sports and Entertainment Network going all over the world. And a special hello to Chris Myrams and Clint Brown, TV3 in Auckland, New Zealand, who are joining us for all of our fights involving Mike Tyson coming up. And we're real proud that television down in New Zealand has taken such an interest in boxing. And great to have Chris and Clint Brown along with us in this telecast, and all our friends across Australia and, of course, New Zealand. Round one, both fighters kind of feeling each other out. Big George covers himself up and lets Adilson Rodrigues pound to the body. You got to figure that Angelo Dundee has told Adilson to jab and stay away from Big George. George hasn't thrown a big hand yet in the fight. George's straight left hand, he's so strong that his straight left hand is not a jab, it's a real heavy punch. It always was in his career, especially in the early side. And he sets up the big right hand off of that straight left hand. You see George trying to get it through, and Rodrigues doing a nice job of staying away from him right now. George, a prohibitive favorite in the fight. In this betting area, you had to bet something like $900 to win 100 on George Foreman if you wanted to bet on George here. That was a big, heavy jab to the bounce the head back of Adilson Rodrigues. Rodrigues came back and started throwing some punches at George, but George seemingly not affected by the punches of Adilson Rodrigues. George not breathing real heavy here in the first round. And of course, George in his entire career has had the record where first, second, third, fourth round knockouts were his style, even in the early going. And since his comeback, most of them come early. And Rodrigues is a world-class fighter, and something different. The right hand gets through. The first big right hand that George has thrown, it didn't do too much damage to Adilson Rodrigues. But those left jabs, as we call them, but there's really like a straight left hand because they bounce the head back of Rodrigues. George, very powerful guy and very dangerous. And of course, everybody over 40 years old in the United States, and I'm sure listening to us and watching around the world, everyone over 40-something is rooting for George Foreman, with the exception of South America. I know you people down there love your man, Adilson Rodrigues.
Motivation and money. So, why did the Brazilian Rodrigues agree to step in against this walking sledgehammer? The answer lay in a check large enough to change a boxer's life at the time. Rodrigues would earn approximately $300,000 for this dangerous dance. On one side was Foreman's ambition to climb the ranks for a title shot. On the other, the biggest paycheck of Rodrigues' career. However, when Rodrigues stepped into the ring, he was about to learn the painful lesson that money cannot buy relief from pain. On the night this fight took place, another legend was fighting on the same card, Mike Tyson. At the time, Tyson was hesitant to speak about Foreman. It is even rumored in backstages that Tyson said about Foreman, "He is an animal, I'm not fighting that old man." Famous boxing analyst Teddy Atlas summarized Foreman's style like this: Foreman's punches aren't fast, but they land heavy as a sledgehammer. The moment he touches his opponent, You can feel their bones rattle. That night, everyone wondered, could Foreman's lumbering but destructive power defeat Rodrigues' technique?
George tries to get a little bit more active. Adilson Rodrigues doing exactly in that, I know the style that Angelo Dundee trains his fighters exactly as you could predict, and that's trying to stay away from George, make George move around, make George try to cut him off in the corners, make him chase him, mix it up, throw a shot, and then get away. And that's what Dundee will want. In fact, Adilson probably mixed it up with George more in the first round than Angelo Dundee would have wanted him to do. But you know, when you coach a guy in between rounds, as you mix it up and the actual fighters get combative in the center of the ring, George getting a little cute on his feet and the crowd reacts to it. George fighting with that style where he crosses the arms in front of his chest and his face so he never takes a punch real flush. Even in the big loss to Muhammad Ali in '74, if you have had an opportunity to see that fight recently, remember George tumbling like a wounded bull in the center of the ring, and Ali never really throwing the big heavy punch that could have flattened him. There's two heavy punches thrown to the body of Rodrigues. And while the punches that time are wild by George, you can see if they were up on the head like that one was, that there's power in those punches. A little bit of quickness with that. It was an awkward sort of right hand, but there's power there because of the sheer size. A man 263 pounds, it may weigh as much as 275 today. The weigh-in was yesterday. There's so much power behind it. Those arms on George are like tree trunks. Of course, that has the biggest thing to do with the downside of George's career. When you see great big guys like this, and real heavy arms get fatigued as the fight progresses. And again, in the comeback road, it's interesting to note that George has only had to go 10 rounds one time, and that was against Everett Martin in Tucson, Arizona in July of '89. And in that fight, he won that on a decision. Fighting twice in '90, in January and April, winning both. One with a second round knockout and one with a fourth round knockout. So Rodrigues coming inside more than Dundee would want. He's open. There's a shot. A left hook catches him, and down goes Rodrigues. It looked almost like a grazing shot. It counts up to 5 and 6 and 7.
And when the match began, the script played out exactly as Foreman wanted. Foreman stalked Rodrigues in the ring like a predator. In the second round, that famous moment arrived. Foreman unleashed a left-right combination that looked slow, but had deadly timing. Those punches landing on Rodrigues' head didn't feel like boxing gloves. They felt like pillows filled with rocks. When the Brazilian collapsed to the canvas, the referee didn't even need to count. 119 kilograms of power had crushed 99 kilograms of technique.
It didn't look like it was that heavy, but Adilson Rodrigues, a guy who scored 26 knockouts of his own, really on Queer Street. He cannot recover from that. So we answer the questions in a hurry here. Can George stay in there with a world-class fighter? The answer tonight is definitely yes. Misses the right. Now watch the left hook. Here it comes. Bang, right there. And again, it didn't look like he caught him that flush, but George is so big and so strong that Rodrigues can't recover from it. You can tell by the way his body is kind of going around awkwardly that he's definitely knocked out.
By knocking out Rodrigues, Foreman sent a clear message to the world: power does not age. This match was one of the most critical turns on the road that would eventually lead him to knock out Michael Moorer and become the oldest champion in the world. Thanks for watching. See you in the next legendary fight breakdown.
The winner by a knockout, the former heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman.